There's an old political maxim attributed to Harold Macmillan, who, when asked what blows governments off course, replied simply, "Events, dear boy, events." It remains the best three-word rebuke to premature crowing in politics. And a few months ago, it seemed inevitable that Canada's Conservatives would sweep to power. The Liberal government was exhausted, unpopular, and adrift, yet somehow, improbably, the Liberals held on thanks to one decisive intervention by Donald Trump. That lesson, associating with the American right, is not a short cut to victory. It may well be a torpedo. Pierre Poilievre, France's conservative leader, cast himself as the Trump-DeSantis mould, and he praised the Freedom Convoy, echoed conspiratorial rhetoric about elite cabals, and never quite condemned MAGA. He was even endorsed by Elon Musk. Then Trump, freshly re-elected, imposed tariffs and made wild noises about annexing Canada. The result, a nationalist backlash that handed Mark Carney, technocratic, anti-populist, vocally anti-Trump, the premiership on a plate. In the UK, some seem deaf to this warning, and Kemi Badenoch once described as a future Prime Minister. Not by me. Recently condemned US Senator J.D. Vance for dropping some truth bombs, a phrase more suited to a podcasting teenager than a stateswoman. Vance, let us recall, had just praised Germany's far-right AfD and downplayed Russian aggression. If this is what British conservatism now considers to be as the stuff of valour, we are in deeper trouble than polling suggests. If we actually think that the tweets, the twitterings of a hamster on his wheel are worth memorialising and following and lauding, then we are in deep trouble. The political danger is clear. Trump is unpopular in Britain. According to YouGov, only 16% of Brits hold a favourable view of him, barely more than Elon Musk. And even among the ruins of last summer's Tory landslide defeat, his favourability scarcely improves. There is no electoral dividend to this MAGA mimicry, and as the Canadian election proved, there may actually be quite a high price. So, stepping back, the UK and Canada share key figures. First past the post voting, regional fragmentation, and Conservative parties flanked by insurgent right-wing movements, Reform UK here, and the old Reform Party of Canada in Canada. In 1993, Canada's right splintered so badly it handed power to the Liberals for over a decade. It took 10 years, and the merger of Canadian Reform and the old Progressive Conservatives to rebuild into something electable. And the analogy is stark. If the British right continues to fragment, it too may face years in the wilderness. And just like Canada's old PCs, today's Conservatives are bleeding on two fronts, to Reform in England and to the Lib Dems in the South. Unless they find a way to reconcile, history suggests that neither faction will win power alone. But this larger lesson is here. Nationalism cannot be outsourced. Poilievre's flirtation with Trump made him seem like a jingoist for another country. It created an extraordinary spectacle. Liberals were able to question the patriotism of conservatives. That should never have happened. When the right in one country idolises the hard right in another, it loses grip on the national story it claims to tell. What the British Conservatives face is not an electoral problem, but a philosophical one. If they turn their backs on Europe, but embrace an American political model that voters distrust, they become ideologically homeless. And unlike Labour, they cannot plausibly claim to flatter Washington out of diplomatic necessity. It looks like sincerity. Worse, it looks like imitation, and imitation is death in politics, particularly imitating somebody people don't like. Moreover, British populism is not American populism. UK voters don't lionise billionaires, nor do they want to slash the state. Brexit wasn't about deregulation, it was about national investment. The NHS bus, not some sort of rand figure. Even British churches wouldn't tolerate the religious intensity of American Christian nationalism. So why court a movement whose cultural DNA is incompatible with ours? This is why Macmillan's dictum matters. The conservative American obsession is a plot, a plan, a strategy, an echo chamber fantasy. But politics is not made of plots, it's made of events. Trump's re-election, a tariff shock, another Gaza escalation, a European security crisis, any of these could turn the public mood in an instant. And if you're lashed to an ideology that's not your own, you'll sink with it. The Canadian right has been taught a lesson. It may yet unify again, as it did under Stephen Harper, but it will have to do so with a new Canadian vision, one that doesn't borrow slogans from Florida. And the British right should take heed. Not only do we have a British hard-right party, Reform UK, that borrowed the name from across the Atlantic from Canada, but before the MAGA tide takes it further out, it should remember where it came from. And remember, too, the advice of that old patrician Tory, events, dear boy, events. They have a habit of reminding politicians just how little the politicians actually control, and how much the tide of history washes away all the dross.